So usually when I start my interview, I like to know what your spiritual practice is.
Sure. For me, it's meditation every day. Every morning, I have a journaling habit where I write down like my purpose prayer, like what I'm here to do, 5 things I'm grateful for, the 5 to 7 things I want to be the best in the world at, and then I kind of do like it's like a short-term but long-term visualization where I write down some things, and that's kind of like it. That's what I do basically every day.
It's amazing. It's like, that's all I do when most of us do like one of those things. Can you tell me more about the purpose prayer? What does that look like?
Yeah. So basically, like when I go into my story, you'll understand it more. But my goal is to instill the belief necessary to start, to share the knowledge required to continue, to show the resilience it takes to persevere, to be down to earth and real, and to show what's possible when you refuse to stay down. Like, I think those are the most important areas of growth. So like, I want to be the beacon of light for people that I'm just a regular dude. Like, I'm as regular as dudes come, but I had this giant goal and it forced me to become something that I never thought I could, but I'm still at the end of the day, just a regular guy you can talk to, and I just want to be, no intimidation. I don't want people to say like, oh, I could never do that. Like, because I can, you can actually. That's actually how it works. So that's my goal, is to be like down to earth with it.
No, I love that. And so with all of the stuff that you do every morning or throughout the day for your spiritual practice, are you writing this down? Are you just visualizing this?
Right here, actually.
Oh.
I haven't done it yet because today was a rough day. That's what I do every morning. I have that.
Love it. So he has a yellow notepad and you just write everything down on it in case people are just listening. But we also have a video, so that's cool. Well, good for you. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you serve people best with what you do.
So our podcast, we just crossed 410 episodes this week. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but we serve people by understanding what limiting beliefs they have, right? So we are very clear on who we're serving. Our primary demographic is women who have big goals but are emotionally driven. If you are run by your emotions, it's hard for you to accomplish your dreams because you find yourself doing what you feel like doing versus doing what you know you should be doing. So every single week we sit down and we record what we think are the most impactful, helpful lessons for people. We have amazing guests on. I do that with my coaching. It's more often than not, it's not the questions that people ask, it's the answers you give. And it's my job to make sure that you're answering the questions that we ask or that you're asking yourself. And I think that most people require accountability, and that's what we try to be for people. Like, if there is something you've gone through in your life, we have a podcast episode on it. We have a group, like, that's it. We want to bring the whole thing. We want to give you the knowledge. We want to give you the support. We want to keep you accountable. We want to help you build your belief. Like, it's a fully rounded thing that we're trying to do.
That's amazing. So how do you suggest that, women or just people in general who are ambitious, but also emotionally driven, where's the balance? Because I know you want to have intuition, you want to be aligned, you want to be connected, but then you also have to have the habits, the system. So where's the balance in all of that?
Yeah. So I was actually on a call with a client earlier and we went over this, and I said, so if we were to break this into percentages, what is the percentage of life that you've been living that is fun, unique experiences versus the discipline and taking action? And she said, it's probably like 65-35. And I said, which way? And she said, probably like 65% fun, unique experiences. And I said, that's fine, but just understand what you're leaving on the table. Like, Gary Vee did not take a day off until he was like 40. Now, is everybody going to do that? No, because he genuinely loves the grind. I think you should build fulfillment into your everyday. So what I told her is what you should do, and maybe this will resonate with you, maybe with the listeners, work for an hour, take a 15-minute break, go outside, go look at the flowers, right? Go do that, go for a walk. Or you can do like an hour walk every day. But you have to make sure that you're getting the most important things done. And you have to understand that you're always going to lean towards the fun, unique experience part. That's always going to be the easy part for you.
Yes.
So a couple things: hire a coach that's going to keep you accountable. That's all I do. I help her have breakthroughs. I help her with her business, but it's my job to make sure that she knows if she's screwing up. I tell her, hey, I think you should be doing better in this. She's paying me, so she understands, like, I should probably listen to what he's saying. So I think having a coach who's going to keep you accountable, having other growth friends is super important, because if you're unique, experience driven and fun and connection driven, if I call you up on a Wednesday, 2 PM and say, hey, why don't you come out for lunch? And you're like a people pleaser, it's going to be super hard for you to say, you know what? I'm working on my business today. Like, I'm working on my business today. But if you have somebody who's also growth minded, they're not going to call you up at 2 p.m. because they're working too, right?
Yeah.
I think that, and they also understand when you say no. A lot of people don't understand how to say no, but they have people in their lives who don't understand no. Saying yes is important. Saying no is a master skill.
Hmm. How would one start to become better at saying no, or knowing when to say no?
Yeah, I don't know that I would suggest this. This is what I do. I put myself in pain. So people say, like, well, how do you stay motivated? I'm not always motivated, but either I do what it takes to accomplish my goals or I don't get them. There is no in between for me.
Hmm.
And I believe so much in the universe and alignment and the law of attraction, all of that. And we can dive into that for sure. But I also understand that a goal without action is a goal. It doesn't get done. So for me, it's just, I put myself in pain. Now, would I like to go out to lunch with this person? Sure, absolutely. But I also understand how much I'm leaving on the table when I do that. So I think setting boundaries with the people closest to you, but understanding that they might not understand.
Hmm.
If you're not an entrepreneur, you might not understand what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I know I didn't. I had no idea what it was like. Like, I thought it was easy. I thought it was going to be super easy. When I first started, I was smoking weed a lot. Like, it would be Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning and I'd be getting high because I was like, this is easy. Like, being an entrepreneur is easy. Right. So as I've leveled up, I've understood, like, you don't want the same thing as the people who want to get lunch with you on Wednesday at 2 p.m. You want to make a change. Like, you're trying to build something. You're trying to leave a legacy. You're trying to change the world. You're trying to build a business. You're trying to impact billions, millions, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. You're playing for different things. So the game you're playing is going to be different. So the approach is going to have to be different. I think it's just a fundamental understanding that, like, everybody is on a different path, and that path is going to take you different places. So don't be afraid to, like, step out of line where some people are going to judge you. Honestly, I think that's part of the game. People are already judging you. Realistically, like,
Yeah,
let them. And easier said than done. I totally understand that.
for sure. Oh, that was very powerful. And I love the idea of, you have to step out of line, that those same people who want to have lunch at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday probably aren't on the same trajectory or the path. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with not being not accepted, but like, it doesn't have to be always like people pleasing or whatever. So I love that. Okay. I know that you didn't start off with high energy, positive outlook, and motivation. We've talked before a little bit about your history. So, what changed for you, and how do you make it a consistent practice and change in your life?
So for me, I think it's because I'm more fulfilled than I've ever been. And I think that that's where so many people are screwing up in a way. If you reach out to me and say, hey, I'm just not motivated. I don't like my relationship. I don't like my job. I don't like my body. I don't like my vision. I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years. I'm just not motivated for life. The problem is, you're focusing on what you're not motivated about, not what you are. Okay, you're not motivated at work. Be motivated to get out of your job. Like, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. So for me, I've designed the life that I'm living. I still have to do things I don't necessarily enjoy, but I'm working very hard so I can start paying somebody else that likes that to do that. So for me, I feel like I'm usually very aligned with the best version of Kevin. That's
Mm.
why I'm high energy. And honestly, people see me performing. I love being in front of this microphone. This is my genius zone. I've done this 400 and, well, probably almost 500 times now between this and guest appearances. Like, I love this. This is what I live for. So I think people that see me are seeing me in the public eye, and, like, this is who I want to be. when I show up. I show up regardless of how much sleep I've had. I show up with 1,000% energy. I will lose my voice at the end of this probably, and I'll be hoarse for the rest of the day. But I just think for me, I'm fulfilled. It seems like happy. It seems like energetic, but I'm fulfilled. Like I am grateful that I get to do this. I don't have to do this. I get to do this, and that's amazing. And it also, a piece of it is because I'm technically living my dream. Like I should be happy. I should be fulfilled. This is what I signed up for. I'm living a life of design, and and I'll get into my story, but 3.5 years ago, I wasn't doing any of this. I wasn't this guy.
Wow.
I wasn't this person at all. I didn't have a system of success. I didn't have any spiritual practices at all. Like I was a completely different version of Kevin.
Okay. Do you want to expand on that? What was that version in 3.5 years? That seems like, wow, that was I feel like most people are like 10 years ago. It took me that long just to get here, but I'm like 3.5 years. That's awesome. So yeah, what was that like back then?
Sure. So when I was, so I'm 30 now, right? So when I was 25, by all outside standards, I had what any 25-year-old man could dream of. I had my girlfriend was a model. I had a sports car. I had a brand new apartment. I had a high paying job, anywhere from $70 to $100 an hour. And I had the body of my dreams. I just did a bodybuilding show. So I was, from all outside standards, I was living the dream.
Yeah.
But I was actually depressed. I was very insecure. I didn't like who I was. I was a shell of myself at that time. So my girlfriend left me, right? So my girlfriend left me, and the greatest thing she could have ever done. Like she definitely should have done that. I wasn't bad to her, but I was depressed. I was a shell of myself. I wasn't a good boyfriend. I wasn't good with myself. So she left. And for the first time in my life, I had to look into the proverbial mirror and admit to myself that the reason you like your muscles, the reason you like your car, the reason you put value in beautiful women and nice things and money is because you don't like yourself. So for the first time in my life, I realized how insecure I was. I realized how little confidence I actually had. I realized how little vision I actually had, how little belief I had in myself. Like for me, this was rock bottom. Now, many people hit rock bottom. Other people have the misfortune of finding out rock bottom has a basement. I will go into that. We'll get to that part. But this was my initial dive into personal development. So I started listening to positive affirmations every night before bed. Like this was the first time I read The Secret. I was like, okay, I'm going to turn this all around. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. So every night before I went to bed, I would say a couple things. I am handsome. I am worthy. I am talented. I am intelligent. And this year I'm going to make the most money I've ever made in my entire life. Unfortunately, I leaned on that last one a little bit too much. So as I said, my girlfriend left me at the end of 2015. 2016 starts. I get promoted to a foreman for the company that I'm working for. Just think of it as construction. We traveled up and down the East Coast of the United States, making state and government buildings more energy efficient. So that's what I did. We traveled every week. Every single week, I was gone from Sunday night until Friday night.
Wow.
I worked in New Jersey. The first job I ever did with a company was Delaware. I worked in Virginia. I worked in Pennsylvania. I worked in New York. I worked in Connecticut. I worked in Rhode Island. Everywhere. I was all over the place. But I wanted to make money. So I didn't care. Like, send me wherever you want. I don't care. That's fine. That's fine. So that year flew by. It was honestly, one of the best years of my life because I was making more money than anybody I knew. I didn't have a college degree. Like, it just felt great I felt abundant for the first time in my life. So we get to the end of the year, and my goal was to make 6 figures at 26 years old with no college degree faster than any of my friends. Like, if I can do that, I'm going to be just fine. So I'm sitting at a table very similar to this one. I don't know, you guys can't see the table, but I'm sitting at a table, and I have my pay stub in front of me, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to open this up. Did I make $100,000 like I said I wanted to do? Like, did I actually accomplish something I set out? And I open it up, and I did. But I had another one of these realizations of, you did it again. You did it again. Exactly what you did last year, you did again. Nothing changed. You're not any more confident. You're just as insecure. You definitely put even more value on external things now, clearly, because you're looking at the pay stub, and you're still not the best version of yourself. You still don't like who you are. So I went to bed that night, and when I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking to myself, it doesn't matter what car's in the driveway. It doesn't matter who you're dating. It doesn't matter what you did today, what you're doing tomorrow, what the house looks like. None of that matters. What matters is up here. What matters is in your head. And that's where hyperconscious came from. For most of my life, I was living unconscious, just day by day, waking up saying like, what am I going to do today? Like, what movie should I watch today? That's how I lived the first 26 years of my life, 27 years, really.
Wow.
Okay. So that was 2016 in a nutshell. So in 2017, I started the Hyperconscious podcast. I wanted to talk about stuff that mattered. I want to talk about your fears. I want to talk about your limiting beliefs. I want to talk about your relationships, all that stuff. And it started out as just a passion because I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed talking. I enjoyed interviewing people. But as I got more into it and people started reaching out and like I was helping people for free, like just coaching people just because I liked it, the job that once brought me so much money and so much happiness now was actually directly taking away from what was fulfilling me. Overnight, money stopped mattering. And obviously it still mattered, but like I didn't care about chasing money anymore. I was leaving work early. Like I was working like 4-hour days and just hustling so I could get out of there. Everybody that worked under me was so mad at me because they were losing anywhere from, $300 to $500 a day because I didn't want to work. I had to be in New Jersey and I live in Massachusetts. So it was like a 4.5-hour ride. I would literally sleep in my bed from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. I would drive 4.5 hours straight to the job. I'd work an 8-hour day. I would go to the gym after. And then on Friday, I'd do the opposite. I'd get up at like 5 in the morning. I'd go to the gym. I'd work 8 hours and I'd drive 4.5 hours home. That was my life. Like that's what I did for a while. And I felt like I was being pulled out of alignment. I wanted a podcast. And I wasn't making any money. So it was like, well, I mean, doesn't everybody want to do something different? Of course they do. Right. But it kept getting worse. Like I was so miserable. I couldn't hold a relationship down because I'm never home. I don't see my friends very often. I'm in a different gym every week. I'm in a different city every week. I'm in a different crusty hotel every week. Like I'm not staying at the Ritz. Like we're talking Red Roof Inn with things crawling under the doors.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So it's 2017. It's towards the end. And this is when it was like the breaking point for me. This is the time that really changed my life more than anything. So it's 5:45 in the morning and I'm lacing up my work boots. I've done this 100 times before. And it's I remember it was cold in New Jersey. And I'm lacing up my work boots. And the best way I can explain it is there was just like 10 televisions on in my head at the same time. And every single one was on a different station. And I could make out some stuff. And what I'm hearing is you're trapped here. There's no way you're ever going to make this kind of money anywhere else. Like, how could you do that? What are your friends going to think? What are your family going to think? And most of all, do you think you ever could be a successful podcaster? Like that's the story of my life, not believing in myself. Like that is one of the reasons I do what I do so much. And I'm so passionate about it. And I'm sitting here on the edge of the bed and, in my mind, the only way to make the voices go away was to end my life. So at this point, I'm sitting 4.5 hours away from home with nobody I love, doing something I hate, feeling hopeless, feeling lost, feeling stuck, feeling helpless. And I genuinely thought the best thing to do would be to take my life. Now, luckily, I didn't do that, obviously, but I texted Alan, who is the co-host of the show, and he was a good friend of mine at the time. And he was like the personal development guy. He was the guy who got me into this. And I said, dude, I don't feel good, man. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he said, Kev, you just need to change, man. Like, you've been doing this for so long. You're putting so much of yourself out there. You're not doing anything that you like. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. Like, easy enough, right? Easy for you to say. But I ended up leaving that job 3 or 4 months later. I went full-time into podcasting. I went full-time into speaking, full-time into coaching. And now we have built a business around the Hyperconscious podcast. Alan does peak performance coaching. I have a podcast agency. We do business coaching together. We have masterminds. We host events. We have clients. We have a team. 400 episodes later, it's, I am living my dream, and that more than anything, I don't want people to think like, oh, good for you. It must have been easy. That's the reason I tell my story, just because I want you to realize the person you're looking at, this is the polished version of Kevin. Like 3.5 years ago, I was smoking weed, getting drunk, like having friends with benefits. Like that's what I was doing, and nothing against any of those things if that's what you want. But now I have an extremely fulfilling relationship. I have a business, I'm taking finances, health, wealth, spirituality, mindset. That's my life now. My life now is how to become the best version of me. Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you don't ever want to get to that point, but where you are is not where you have to stay. That's my goal. If you take nothing away, if you turn that off now or this off now, if you take that away, I'm happy.
Wow, that's really a powerful story. And especially that you were able to turn things around in 3.5 years. I feel like that is like anyone listening, you can decide right now the second and start that path and get to where you want to go in a shorter time than you think. And I kind of want to unpack a little bit that moment where you reached out to Alan. Was it that in that moment something he said, or was it like you were telling yourself a certain story, like how you said the televisions, those were stories that you were telling yourself and it made you feel trapped? So did you just change the story, or was it just knowing that you saw this person who was happy and it gave you hope? Or like what was that like change in that moment?
Yeah. Alan was a huge part of it because he has a very similar story where he left corporate America. He was making almost $200,000 a year when he was like 25, and he had a life or death moment, and he left that all behind to chase his dreams. So I had the blueprint of what to do, and I also, and Alan told me this, he said, your work ethic is unreasonable. Like you have a crazy work ethic that'll take you places. And I knew that if Alan and I worked together, I would be successful. So a lot of me borrowed belief from Alan. I
Mm.
tell people all the time, like, if you're not confident, get around somebody who is, and get around somebody who believes in you, because they will help instill confidence in you. You can borrow belief, but just make sure you build it on your own. If you're always reliant on borrowing it, you're never going to build your own. And I learned that lesson many times. But for me, I think it's because I had a mentor. I had a guy right in front of me who was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And, did I think he was smarter than me? Yes. He has some intangibles that I don't. But I also realized, like, well, with the proper guidance, I think I can do this. And just to speak to your point on the 3.5 years, I I got rid of a lot of my friends that weren't good for my growth. Now, I don't necessarily suggest people do that. I would say maybe reallocate time, but my life is growth. So like every day I'm doing things specifically. The reason I'm on this podcast, because I know it'll help me grow, right? Not only as a person, but the relationship with you. We had a great talk when we connected,
Yeah.
right? I might get some new listeners. I might get client. Like it's going to make me a better version of me. Everything I do is to get better. That's the goal. And I made that commitment years ago, and now I'm finally figuring out what it actually takes. But that's why it's 3.5 years versus 10. And I'm still 20 years away from where I need to be, but I'm 3.5 years closer than I was.
Yeah, that's just, it's very powerful, such a powerful statement and story. And I know I definitely have taken away so much inspiration, and hopefully, many people listening will as well. So I know in the past, or in our past conversations, you talked about creating systems. So you teach your community how to create systems. You live by systems of success for results that you want to achieve. So what is a system of success?
So the way I would explain it is a custom design system to help you live the life that you want to live. Like we're talking about lifestyle design, right? So like when you're building a house, you have a system, right? You put this up first, you put this up first. That's the reason all houses are kind of the same, because they run on the same system, right? Your food is created at a restaurant with a system. You do this, you do this, you do this, you deliver it, wipe it down, boom. That's the system. So most people are living by accident. What a system of success is, it's for you to live as intentionally as possible. And I break it into health, wealth, and love. So if I was to sit down with you, I would ask you this question. What are the 3 to 5 things that you can do, that you should be doing, that you're not doing every single day when it comes to health, when it comes to wealth, and when it comes to love? Now, that seems like, oh, well, that's okay. That's 15 things, right? 15 things, 9 to 15 things. The problem is you're not doing those things every day. I can almost guarantee it, because I still don't do them every day. I still miss. And I'm checking them off as I go, right? So if you were to come and say like, okay, relationships, I have a significant other, and it's great. Everything's great. What would I do? Like, what are the 3 to 5 things I could do? Every night before you go to bed, say what you're grateful for. Have a series of questions. Every night before I go to bed, I ask my girlfriend, did you feel loved? Did you feel listened to? Did you feel supported? Did you feel appreciated? Did you feel romanced? What do you need from me?
We need all men to take notes on this.
um, the gratitude game. Oh, I already said that. Every Sunday we have a check-in where we sit down and we go over the 5 love languages and we go over the 6 basic human needs. How well did we do this week? Right? That's 3 things right there. That's your 3 things. Now, you can also throw a couple of self-loves there. Let's do some positive affirmations, right? Let's do some journaling. Boom, there's your 5. Under health, weigh yourself every day. Do some sort of physical activity. Track your calories. Drink enough water. Meditate. Boom. Wealth, track your finances. Prospect for 1 new client a day, right? Build a relationship every single day. Invest money every single day. Like, it seems so simple, and it is, but consistency isn't. And that's where most people miss. Like, we've done 400 episodes in 3.5 years. Why? Because we've never missed an episode. We take our equipment on the road. We did it all through quarantine, separate. We learned about Zoom, right? We've never missed an episode ever in 3.5 years. We've never missed. And that's consistency. Most people just struggle with consistency, especially if you're doing what you feel versus doing what you know you should. I don't feel like meditating. I meditated before this, like 20 minutes before this. I didn't feel like it. I wanted to watch videos on YouTube. I didn't feel like doing yoga this morning. It's not always about what you feel like doing. It's about what you know you should do. And sometimes you should do what you feel, but you got to make sure that you're doing it in a balance so you're actually making progress towards your goals.
Absolutely. And so, because I often say, you want to be aligned, you want to know intuitively what is right for you and add that bit of flexibility in it. But it sounds like to me that these systems are things that, like, I know yoga, I know meditation, those will always serve me. Those will always help me. Those will always support me. But maybe, like, for example, with goals, like maybe one day I feel like I want to write a book, or, maybe a few months from now, a course I'm creating, it doesn't feel right. So how do we know the difference between my intuition's telling me to stick with this and I should do it even if I don't feel like it, versus I need to pivot, this is not right for me anymore, or this doesn't feel right?
I would say check in with, are you abundant or are you scarce? Because if you're scarce, your intuition is probably not, it's not calibrated, right? Like, if you're abundant. So our mentor is David Meltzer. We're so blessed to have such an amazing mentor. And when it comes to spirituality, he is like, it's unreasonable how much this man knows. He blows us out of the water. But he really put this into practice for me when he said, if you can imagine something, right? So on podcast episode number 7 of the Hyperconscious podcast, I said I wanted to wake up when I want. I want to go to the gym when I want. I want to podcast with who I want, when I want. I want to have an amazing relationship. I want to be my own boss. Now I have that. When I said that on episode 7, that was created somewhere in the universe. It's out there. It's out there. It's there. It's my job now not to screw it up.
Yes.
And I think that's where so many people, it's not necessarily what you have to do. A lot of the times it's what you don't have to do. Like, what you're not supposed to do. Saying no is the master skill. So if you feel pulled to write a book, I would ask, where is this pull coming from? Is this coming from the best version of me that wants to serve? Am I trying to make a quick buck? Is that what, because if you are, don't write a book, because that's going to take a while, right? Like, not a quick buck. So I would check in with your scarcity versus your abundance. Like, on a scale 1 to 10, how abundant am I right now? Because when you're abundant, you're willing to take risks. When you're scarce, you don't even want to see your shadow.
And for people who might not understand the difference between the two, when you say abundance versus scarce, I mean, I know what that feels like to me, but how would you describe that to someone?
Oh man, scarce. I think the best way to explain scarce is, you have a cup that's filled to the brim with fear and uncertainty. You will not accept any ideas. Like, I could literally come to you and say, hey, I have an idea to make $100,000. You're so scarce that you're like, nope, that's dumb. It's not possible. So I would say scarcity is you're backed into a corner. You don't have any belief. You don't see any way out. You're not willing to take advice probably. And you're thinking ridiculously short term, like tomorrow, today. Abundant, you feel centered. Maybe that's probably not the best word, because if we're talking about abundance, centered probably is confusing also. You feel in alignment. You feel certain. You feel safe. You feel comfortable. You feel energetic. You feel pulled, right? So when you're scarce, you have to push yourself to do something. When you're abundant, you feel pulled to do something. So
Mm.
if you feel pulled to do something, it's probably the universe, God, whatever it is you believe in, telling you that like this is the best version of you. This is what the best version of you would do.
Yeah. And I love what you said before that as well, that where is this coming from? Like, what place is this coming from? And I think that's a wonderful way to check in with yourself to know your motives and your intentions, because every action has an intention. And my biggest goal lately has been to align my personality with my soul, which is basically, personality is the ego, instant gratification, what it wants right now. But if I can align that with the soul, which is the deeper divine part of me that knows where it wants to go, that it's that abundant place, then I'll be more happy and able to achieve what I'm supposed to achieve. So yeah, I love everything that you said. So what happens when you're tempted to fall back into old habits, old mindsets, old thinking, stories, whatever it is that used to not serve you? Like, how do you deal with that? And do you still feel that temptation?
I think battling confidence and insecurity will be, I think that's what I'm going to have to battle forever. I genuinely think that if you are wired a certain way, that's always going to be some sort of your battle. Alan he was on the opposite end. He was arrogant at one point. I think he's always going to have to battle that. I think that's why we are such a great team, because we drive to the middle. I put myself in pain. I genuinely, like, I want to change the world. Like, I left everything behind, everything I once knew. I left people behind. I'm all in on this. So, and also I have a bunch of people counting on me. Like,
That's huge.
it is. My girlfriend is so supportive of me. I will not fail her. Like, when I say I will die before I fail, I genuinely mean that. I don't care. I do, obviously I care, but like,
Yes.
this is my life. This is my life. Some people think it. Some people say it. Some people do it. Some people are it. I want to be it. I want to be it. And the thing is, like, I've gotten a taste of what this life is like. It's a lot easier to keep going when you've already gotten some of the pleasure. So if you're on a different part of your journey, I completely understand. You might be saying, like, you're willing to die for a podcast? Like, that's crazy, man. And it probably sounds crazy. But, it's the hundreds of messages. It's the hundreds of people in our Facebook group. It's the connections I've made. It's the fact that I finally believe in myself for once. Like, I actually believe I can be something. That I never thought that was going to happen. So that's what it is for me. Like, you're not put here just to work a job and die. That's not what you're here for. So if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? Like, and if you're doing it, then you need perspective more often. Like, reflect on who you used to be. I do that all the time. When it's midnight and I can't fall asleep because I'm so overwhelmed, I go back to my Instagram post from 3 years ago. I look up my Snapchat from 4 years ago. I listen to old podcast episodes when we didn't have a studio, right? When we didn't have guests that anybody knew. That's how it keeps me grounded. It keeps me grounded, and it keeps me understanding, like, there's a bigger reason for why you're doing this, and you're getting the little tidbits along the way. So if you're early in your journey, you have to understand that, like, there's a reason most businesses fail. You don't want to be that statistic, and you don't have to be, but you have to be disciplined and you have to be consistent. Like, this is serious business. When you decide you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's not taking pictures in front of cars. That's not what being an entrepreneur is. That is not it.
No way.
That is not it. And people who tell you that's what it is they're doing you a disservice. They're doing you a disservice. Being an entrepreneur will make you be the best version of yourself if that's in alignment with what your business is. So I think that's what it is. It's continuously checking in with where you are right now and where you want to be. And like we said earlier, grateful dissatisfaction. I'm so happy for what I have. Like, most of what I have, I never thought I would, but I'm also hungry as hell for what's still out there for me. And it's keeping that balance.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting because I've been reading that book, The One Thing, and just from our conversation and seeing your passion, you were really just like all in with the podcast. That was your focus. do you recommend to people having the one thing and going hard on that? And if so, how do you pick it? Like, how do you know what that one thing should be?
That's a very, very difficult question. So first, yes, I think you should go all in on one thing, because think about it this way. Oprah,
Love her.
she can do anything she wants. Why? Because she was the best interviewer in the world,
Yep.
right? Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. Best basketball player in the world. He could be in any movie he wanted. He could do anything. If you're the best at one thing, you can almost do anything else you want.
Mm.
Eminem, the best rapper, and he's also an award-winning actor. Like, what? He
Yeah.
wouldn't be in a movie if he wasn't a rapper. So if you can be the best version of yourself at one thing, I think other opportunities will come to you, especially if you connect them. So I never wanted to be a speaker. I never wanted to be a coach. I never wanted to be a podcast consultant. But that all falls into the realm of what I'm doing. I've spoken for hundreds of hours, so why not be a speaker? I love speaking to people, right? And this also gave me the belief to do that. So it's hard because hindsight's 2020. But think about if you could wake up tomorrow and money didn't exist. Just get not that you had enough money to survive. No. Money didn't exist. That money wasn't a thing. What would you want to do? What would you want to base your life around? That's the question I would ask. And sit with that and give yourself grace to say whatever comes up. If the thing you come up with is, I want to travel around the world and take pictures of things, cool. Now, this is the problem. The second after you say that, your brain's going to say, yeah, you know how hard that is? First of all, you don't even know anything about photography. I went through the same thing. I didn't know anything about podcasting. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what a podcast was. Right? And now people pay me to do theirs for them. So the same thing could happen for you. The same thing. Now, if I said, what would you do? And you say, I would be LeBron James. I would be Oprah. Okay. Now, is that possible? Yes. But that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
So are you willing to put it? And the LeBron James, I'm 5'5". I'm probably never going to be LeBron James. So some circumstances are there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can't shoot for it. It doesn't mean you can't shoot for it. So that would be my thing. If you could do anything in the world and money was not even relevant, what would you do and why would you do it? And another thing, Evan Carmichael, we interviewed him in person, and he said your purpose comes from your pain. What is a pain that you've gone through that you want to save other people from going through? When I was sitting on the edge of that hotel bed, I found my purpose that day. That was the first time I ever connected with a mission. My goal was to be the person that I needed when I was at my lowest point. I don't ever want anybody to get where I was. And honestly, I think the reason I went there is because that would have killed other people. I'm glad it happened to me now because I'm out of the mud, right? So I took my biggest pain and I turned it into my greatest purpose, and that's extra Y power. That's extra Y power. I'm not doing this for the money, right? I'm doing this for the impact. I'm doing this to change lives and for people to say oh, because Kevin did this, I can do this. Or that coaching call changed my life, or that podcast episode changed my life, or, I'm just playing for something different. Same way you guys can play for something different. It doesn't have to be money. Because if you're going at it from money, think about it. I went to high school and then I was thinking, what is the highest paying job I can get? Okay, I'll go do this. You already are losing. You're already doing it for the wrong reason. You never said what was the most fulfilling, what would make me the best version of myself, what would I be most aligned doing? So I think if you're aiming for the result of money, it's going to take you down maybe a different path if you're aiming for the life of your dreams or a life of fulfillment or purpose or contribution or growth. It's just a different journey.
Yeah. Wow. So many amazing things that you said. And for someone who's listening and say they sit and ask those questions and say, what is it that I would do if money didn't exist? And then they figure that thing out. What would you recommend as the first few steps to being brave enough to acting on it? Whether it's, you did podcasting. Did you start it when you were still working your
Yes.
job? Okay. So it's whether it's just dipping into it a little bit and seeing if you like it, or what would you recommend to someone to be brave enough to have that confidence and have that passion for whatever it is that pops up in their mind?
I would say do the lowest barrier to entry. So if it was the photography thing I said, Google photography and see what comes up. check on people who do that.
Mm.
Like, see what they're all about. Look up cameras. Like, look at pictures that you like. I would literally do the lowest barrier to entry because it doesn't have to happen right now. I think the problem is so many people are not happy where they are, but they're not willing to look for where they would be happy. That's all I want you to do. I just want you to look for where you would be happy. We'll figure out
Powerful.
how to get there later. But you knowing where that place is far better than you not knowing. If you and I were to get into a car and I said, all right, we're going on a trip, put it into the GPS. And you said, yeah, for sure. Where are we going? And I was like, I don't know. We're going to go. There's no point in having the GPS. But if I said we're going to California, boom. Now we know exactly where the destination is. Now the journey is going to be, we could take many different routes to get there. But I just figure out what you want first. And then what is the smallest action you can take? For me, it was figuring out what equipment I actually needed. That was it. Like, I didn't care about who I was going to interview. Like, what do I need to get started? That was that, right? If you want to start a nonprofit to shelter animals, what is the lowest barrier of entry? Maybe Google what it takes to start a nonprofit. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to look at places. You don't have to do anything else. The lowest barrier to entry, whatever is going to start momentum, the first domino, just the first domino.
So it's basically what I'm hearing is have the curiosity, let yourself be curious. Don't feel like you have to be committed for life or risk everything to do it. But then also by approaching it with the lowest barrier of entry, you're basically giving yourself a taste of the reality of it. And by looking up how to do certain things, it's almost like, oh, okay, like I can do this. There are steps to do this. And it kind of like opens that door for you.
And you strike while the iron's hot.
Mm.
Like, you feel it. Like, when you feel that pull of like, oh my God, imagine what that would be like, do it then. Because your brain's not going to have time to say like, that's a dumb idea. That's a dumb idea. It's never going to work, right? Because that's your brain. That's your conditioning. That's your parents. That's your teachers, right? Unless you had super inspiring and empowering parents and teachers, maybe they told you that anything was possible. But yeah, I would say that, like, it's just the initial taking action. And the other thing too is, like, you already have an identity. I think when you start researching other things, you can start to tie your identity into those things a little bit more. Like,
Yes.
it took me a long time to say I was a podcaster because I was afraid of what people would think. Now that's how I introduce myself all the time, right? This is my identity now. Now, it happened 100 episodes in maybe, but it started with me saying, like, I was the first person I knew to have a podcast. Even when I had the bare bones setup way before the studio, that was my identity. I'm already a podcaster. Now I just have to get better, right? Me becoming a podcaster, what did that actually take? I had to order a microphone. That was it. And now I'm a podcaster. Now,
Yeah.
now everything else adds up, right? Now, okay, we have a studio and we have all this, and I had to hone my skills. But what do you have to get in order to be a photographer? You have to get a camera. That's it. It doesn't have to be this camera. You have one right here. Most people have 4K cameras right on their phone, right? So that's all you need. You could take a picture and say, I'm a photographer now. Boom. Now, you don't have to go show everybody and say, I'm the greatest photographer ever. No, but start taking pictures. Start being curious about what shots would look good. Start noticing billboards like, oh, that picture was taken, in this way. Or like, look at the blur, look at the colors. And then just start living it, start being it.
It's great. That's so great. I really appreciate and enjoy your energy and everything that you share. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So, if people could leave with one thing and one thing only, what would you want them to take away from today?
Oh, man. The biggest difference between the person you are and the person you want to be is your habits. Make everything I said today a habit. Getting out of your comfort zone is a habit. Becoming more confident is a habit. The things that you do every single day add up to your weeks, that add up to your months, that add up to the years of your life. Like, it sounds so simple. But if what you're doing every day is not serving you, switch that for something that is, and your life will look exponentially different in a year. Exponentially different. You won't even recognize it. Like, just imagine that. And I know it sounds simple, but it's not. If it was simple, everybody would be rich. Everybody would have the relationship of their dreams. Everybody would have the body of their dreams. It's difficult. Discipline and consistency are difficult. if you can lock those things in, you can have whatever you want eventually.
It's great. Are you reading any good books right now?
I am reading so I'm always listening to Brian Tracy. I'm a big fan of Brian Tracy. Let me look up the book. Alan suggested this to me. This is
Great.
really good for people who have any negative associations with money. The Illusion of Money by Kyle. The
Great.
Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I'm listening to that.
Great book.
Yeah. I'm always listening to like 4 or 5. I'm listening to How to Be an Anti-Racist because we have a book club every week, and one of our things was like, I want to be more proactive about this. I don't want to be ignorant to what's going on in the world. Like, I have a platform. I want to be able to help people. So I'm reading that as well. So I'm always doing like 3 or 4 books at a time.
That's great. All right. Where can we find you?
You can find, if you like what we talked about, we have 400 and something episodes on it. So there's something there for you. So the hyperconsciouspodcast.com. That's our website, the Hyperconscious Podcast. We're on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, everywhere. Wherever you listen to shows or watch shows, you can find us there. And I'm doing free 30-minute consultations for anybody who wants to start a podcast, anybody who wants to grow their show, scale their show, monetize their show. Just email me, kevin@thehyperconsciouspodcast.com. I'm not going to try to sell you on anything. I just want to add as much value as I can. That's my goal.
That's great. Wonderful, wonderful. Is there anything else you want to leave with us before we sign off?
I think that's it. I believe in you guys, even if you don't believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, get around somebody who does, because it will do you wonders.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much.